supergrass at the centre of a triple gangland killing yesterday admitted he'd fired a shotgun before. Police informant Darren Nicholls told defending barrister Graham Parkins at the Old Bailey that he did have knowledge of using such a weapon. Drug barons Tony Tucker 38, Patrick Tate 37 and 26-year-old Craig Rolfe were blasted to death with a pump-action shotgun as they sat in their Range Rover in a deserted country lane in the quiet Essex village of Rettendon. The trio had been lured to the farm track on December 6, 1995 with the promise of a large cocaine deal, unaware that an ambush had been laid for them. Tate of Basildon and Tucker of Fobbin and Rolfe of Grays had earlier been outraged by pure quality cannabis supplied by Michael Steele, who was jointly accused of the triple murders alongside Jack Womes 36, Steele 54 of Anglers Green Great Bentley and Womes of Main Road Brockford denying the charges. Nichols is alleged to have driven the two men away from the murder scene. Under cross-examination from Mr. Parkins, Nichols admitted to the jury to firing a shotgun on an earlier occasion. Mr. Parkins asked Nichols if he'd smelled anything unusual on accused killer Jack Womes, like the smell of a discharged shotgun, when he got back into the Getaway vehicle. Nichols replied, "I don't know what a discharged cartridge smells like." Mr. Parkins said, "Have you ever fired a shotgun before, Mr. Nichols?" Darren Nicholls replied, "Yes, I have." The court earlier heard Nichols undergo a fifth day of grilling by Mr. Parkins, who was representing Michael Steele. He accused the police informant of not being in the place he said he was when receiving an alleged call from Womes to pick him up at the murder scene. Mr. Parkins asked Nichols, "You didn't hear the noise that sounded like a number of shotgun cartridges going off?" Nichols replied, "No." Mr. Parkins said, "Nothing to indicate to you that a gun was being discharged in the location?" Nichols said, "No." Mr. Parkins added, "Were you in fact travelling in the general direction of Basildon at that time?" Nichols said, "No, I was in the road at Rettendon waiting for the call." Mr. Parkins replied, "Are you sure?" Nichols said, "Yes." Nichols told the court that he'd received 2 calls on his mobile phone in short succession, just before 7 p.m, both of which were from the Womes' mobile. Mr. Parkins said, "These 2 calls were served by a site at Christopher Martin Road, Basildon. I ask you again, were you in fact not where you claim to be, not in Meadow Road, but driving from the scene in the general direction of Basildon?" Nichols replied, "No, I was in Meadow Road." Mr. Parkins had earlier accused Nichols of playing a part in the murders. He said, "Were you in reality that night part of a meeting with Patrick Tate?" Nichols replied, "No." Womes and Steele also denied charges of conspiracy to import cannabis. Steele is also charged with possessing an 8-shot pump-action shotgun. Co-defendant Peter Corey of London Road Clacton denies conspiracy to import cannabis. The trial continues. Supergrass Darren Nicholls lied over the Rettendon triple murders, a lawyer told the Old Bailey. Nichols claimed he was the Getaway driver after the callous killings, but became a police informer to spare himself a murder charge, said defence counsel Edward Rees. Mr. Rees said Nichols wanted to get his own back on 2 men he'd fallen out with, Jack Womes and Michael Steele. He also had it in for Peter Corey, who he claimed was heavily involved in drug smuggling operations, added Mr. Rees. The barrister stressed that Nichols himself was into drugs and was a persistent liar, steeped in criminal activity. At the same time, the 32-year-old police informer was vindictive and clever with it, says Mr. Rees, the third defence lawyer in the trial to discredit Nichols, the prosecution's chief witness. Mr. Rees, who represents Corey, went on, "Nichols is so dishonest by nature, his attitude is you are all corrupt, so you do not have a go at me because I'm trying to make a living." Then Mr. Rees asked the jury, "How many allowances are you giving Nichols? You must have considerable unease about his evidence." Earlier in the trial, Nichols, electrician from Braintree, told how he met Womes and Steele in prison. They kept in touch afterwards, and Nichols actually worked for Steele, who was rebuilding a bungalow. Nichols maintained he was asked to act as a getaway driver for his ex-prison pals when they had a rendezvous in a quiet Rettendon farm track with 3 drug barons. He said he waited at the start of the track for the two men to return, thinking they'd fixed a lucrative cannabis deal. It was only later he alleged that he realised that they'd shot the drug dealers, Patrick Tate, 37, of Gordon Road, Basildon, Tony Tucker, 38, of High Street, Fobbing, and Craig Rolfe, 26, of Cowsher Avenue, Chafford 100, as they sat in a Range Rover. Nichols, who was never charged with the murders, has pleaded guilty to drug offences and is awaiting sentence. Womes of Main Road, Brockford, Suffolk, and Steele of St Mary's Road, Great Bentley, Essex, deny murder. They also plead not guilty, along with Peter Corey, 45, of London Road, Clacton, to conspire to smuggle drugs. The case was adjourned to after Christmas. The jury will return on January the 5th, when the judge is expected to sum up the trial, now in its 16th week.